In a small town called Midday, a town where the sun shines softly all day long, lives a girl named Taidy. She always has a bright smile and dirt on her hands because her greatest passion is growing flowers. Every morning, Taidy takes care of her backyard, watering, tilling, and chatting with the flowers like close friends. She believes that flowers understand the heartbeat. But one morning, after a night of drizzling rain, she discovered something strange. Amid the wet soil, a pale gray seed lay, glowing as if it were breathing. Taidy leaned down to take a closer look and heard a faint whisper from within her heart. "Plant me, and you will know the future." The girl's heart was pounding. She was both excited and hesitant. "You know the future? Then how will I know when my mother will recover? Will I become the great person I dreamed of?" With a mixture of curiosity and concern, Taidy decided to dig a small hole and plant the seed in the soil in the middle of her garden. She watered with trembling hands and said softly, "Then tell me what tomorrow will be like." The once bright sky slowly darkened, even though it was still daytime. A gentle breeze whispered back, "You will find out, but be careful what you plant." The voice was so soft it was almost inaudible, but in Taidy's heart, she felt something beginning to grow, both in the garden and in her own mind. The next morning, the first rays of sunlight streamed through the window. Taidy hurried out to the backyard, her heart pounding. But what she saw made her eyes widen in surprise. The gray seed she had planted the previous night had sprouted into a tree as tall as her in just one night. The stem was slender and silvery, and at the top were 3 flowers, each emitting a different light. One a warm red like a flame, one a deep, cool blue like the night sky, and one a vibrant green like the light of life. The mysterious voice from the wind rang out again. "The flowers of time. These 3 flowers will answer your question." Taidy looked up. "What does that mean?" The voice replied softly, "Red is the past, the one you miss. Blue is the future, the one you fear. And green is the present, the one you have now. Choose one flower, and you will have what your heart desires." The girl hesitated. She stared at the red flower first. Its light so warm, it felt like someone was hugging her. "The past," she murmured softly. "I want to go back to my father. I want to see the day when my mother still smiled like before." Her heartbeat grew faster and faster. Her small hand slowly reached out to touch the red petal. Suddenly, a gust of wind swirled around her. The petals fluttered, turning into golden light, and the scene before her began to change. The old house had become the home from years ago. She saw herself, a little younger, sitting drawing next to her laughing father. Everything was warm, as if she had entered a dream again. But then, when she tried to call out to him, her voice was lost in the wind. She drew closer, but every time she touched him, the figure in the picture grew fainter and fainter. A voice from a flower echoed in her heart. "The past is sweet, but intangible." Tears began to well up in Taidy's eyes. "Can I stay here forever?" But the voice replied simply, "No one can live in a dream forever." The red light began to fade, and the world spun again. When Taidy opened her eyes, she was standing in the garden. The trees were still there, the 3 flowers still glowing. But now she felt something in her heart, a gentle sadness. She knew the past was beautiful, but it couldn't be changed. A cool evening breeze blew through the garden, the soft rustling of leaves whispering a warming. Taidy stood before the time tree. She could still feel the warmth of the past in her heart. But a new doubt began to arise instead. If the red flowers could take me back to the past, she whispered to herself softly, then will the blue flowers show me the future? The blue flower's light began to pulsate as if answering that question. The whisper from the tree rang out again, this time calmer and colder. The future is a mist that never stops moving. Those who want to see it must sacrifice their own fear. Taidy swallowed, her heart pounding, but the curiosity of an 8-year-old was stronger than her fear. She slowly reached out and touched the blue petals. Suddenly, a deep blue light burst out from the flower, swirling around her in a ripple. Everything around her vanished, leaving only the sound of her heart beating. Thump, thump, thump. When she opened her eyes again, the world before her had changed. She was in a big city filled with skyscrapers, flying cars, and people walking around with expressionless faces. But there was no laughter, no birds, no flower gardens like her home. Taidy continued walking, and suddenly she saw her future self, a young woman in her 20s, with long hair and a gray coat, sitting by the window of a tall room, looking up at the sky with sorrow. The girl hurried over. Is that me? The girl in the future spoke softly. Yes, I am you, if you let your fears grow like they do now. Little Taidy frowned. Fear? The girl nodded. I'm afraid of failing, afraid of making mistakes, afraid of the future that hasn't even arrived yet. I forgot to smile, forgot to laugh, forgot to even see the flowers in front of me. Those words made Taidy's heart tremble. The surroundings began to distort. The bright city began to darken. The tall buildings began to melt into smoke. The sounds of machinery became the sound of breathing. The tree's voice rang out again. The future cannot be known until that day comes. Those who obsess over it will slowly lose the present. The girl from the future wept, tears streaming down her cheeks. Taidy reached out to comfort her, but she couldn't reach out, like a reflection in water. She whispered softly, I don't want to be like this. Suddenly, the blue light faded and everything disappeared, became the sound of breathing. When she opened her eyes again, Taidy was standing in the garden again. But now she knew that the future might not be as beautiful as she thought. It was always changeable, and she shouldn't fear it anymore. She turned to look at the last flower, a green one, still glowing faintly in the darkness. The light was strangely warm, inviting her to step towards it. An evening breeze blew gently through Taidy's garden. After experiencing both the past and the future, her heart felt like it was weighed down by 2 stones. One was the regret of yesterday, and the other was the fear of the future. She sat still before the tree of time. The 2 flowers, red and blue, began to wither, leaving only the green one, still glowing faintly, like the light of an everlasting heart. A familiar whisper rang out again. You have seen both the past and the future. Now face what is most real, the present. Taidy looked at the green flower. It looked simple, not as bright as the others, but it gave her a sense of peace, warmth, like a mother's embrace. She reached out and gently touched its petals. Suddenly, a green light enveloped her, soft like a mist of rain. The whole world stopped spinning. There were no images of the past, no sounds of the future. There was only the sound of her heartbeat. Thump, 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 and a voice from within. Now you're breathing. Now you're aware of life. Only now is the true gift. Taidy closed her eyes and felt everything. The smell of wet earth, the sound of leaves, her mother's laughter in the kitchen. Everything she had once overlooked suddenly became clear and heartwarming. Tears streamed down her face, but this time they weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of understanding. I don't have to go back and change the past. I don't have to fear the future anymore, she whispered softly, because today I'm still here. The green light gradually faded, leaving only the still trees. But something had changed. The trees began to sprout more tiny blossoms. Each blossom was as pale as the morning light. The last voice from the trees softly rang out. You have planted peace instead of worry, and that is the most beautiful seed in the world. A gentle breeze blew through the garden once more. The green petals fell and disappeared into the soil, becoming a complete part of the world. Early morning in Midday City, sunlight streamed through the small window into Tidy's room. The girl slowly opened her eyes, her heart as light as a feather. She walked out into the backyard where it all began. The tree of time still stood, but now it was flowerless. Only its slender trunk and light green leaves swayed gently in the breeze. Tidy smiled, not a smile of joy at the miracle, but a smile of understanding. She bent down, touched the soil at the base of the tree, and whispered softly, "Thank you for teaching me that anything can grow, even if it means starting over." Then she pulled out a small cloth bag. Inside were seeds she had saved long ago. Ordinary seeds, without light or whispering. She dug a small hole near the tree of time and placed the seeds in. Her hands were warm, her eyes filled with determination. This time, I will plant with a calm heart, not a fearful heart. A bird chirped faintly in the tree behind her. Sunlight struck the moist soil just right. And in that moment, Tidy knew she no longer needed answers from the future. She watered gently and said to herself, I don't know how this flower will grow, but I will nurture it every day with joy today. A gentle breeze blew through her hair, and for the first time in days, Tidy's heart felt truly quiet. She smiled and knew this is a true new beginning. Days passed, and the little flower Tidy had planted began to sprout. Its light green color was so vibrant, it seemed to reflect the peace of the girl's heart. She watered it every morning without rushing. She no longer asked when it would grow. She didn't expect it to be as beautiful as anyone else's flower. She just lived with it. One evening, as the wind gently blew, Tidy heard a whisper again, this time from within her heart, not from the trees. Can you still hear me? She smiled. Yes, but this time your voice was very soft. Because you don't need to listen to me anymore. I'm in your heart now. You know time without having to ask. Taidy closed her eyes, feeling her heart beating slowly. The sound wasn't loud, but it was clear. Yes, now I understand, she whispered. The past is what I remember. The future is what I hope for. But this present is what I really have. The cool wind blew past her face again like a soft response. She laughed softly, lifting her head to look at the sky. The setting sun was melting beautifully over the horizon. Her mother walked out of the house, smiled faintly, and said, "You look happier, Taidy." She turned and smiled. "I'm happy today, Mom. Don't worry about anything. Just being here is good enough." Her mother held her in her arms. Their laughter carried on the wind, so gentle and warm. "This is the sound of the heart," a voice whispered softly in Tidy's heart. And she knew immediately she didn't need to look for answers anywhere else. A new season has arrived, and white clouds linger over Midday City. In the small backyard, colorful flowers begin to bloom simultaneously. Bright yellow like the morning light, soft pink like laughter, and pure white like a mother's smile. Tidy stands and gazes at her work, a garden that was once a refuge for fear. Now it's a garden of tranquility, brimming with life. She walks past the tree of time. The tree is still standing, no longer glowing, no longer speaking, but she feels like it's smiling in the silence. "I don't need to say anything, because you understand time better than I do." Taidy crouched down beside the tree, her palms on the ground. She felt the earth's pulse beat alongside her heart. Tick, tick, tick. It was like the ticking of a clock that never stopped. "I'll stay here," she said softly. "I'll plant, I'll laugh, I'll cry, and I'll make the most of every day, because the present is my gift." The birds chirped happily. The late morning sunlight shimmered on the leaves, sparkling. A gentle breeze blew through the garden, and the flowers swayed as if waving to her. Tidy's mother stopped beside him. She asked with a smile, "What are you going to plant today?" Tidy smiled back. "I'm going to plant happiness today." The two of them laughed softly and began to till the soil together. Every hand movement was the sound of a heart beating. Slow, simple, and steady. Colorful flowers swayed in the wind, and the faint whisper echoed through the air once more. The past is a dream. The future is uncertainty. Only the present is the gift we can truly use. Taidy looked up at the sky. In the eyes of the 8-year-old girl, there was no more fear. Only peace blossomed, like the flowers in her own garden. Summary of the story. The past is a dream, beautiful but irretrievable. The future is uncertain, one who knows what will happen. Only the present can we truly change. If we learn to live in the now with a calm heart, the whole world will blossom within our hearts.